Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how a genre gets made. I am here with my long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, known the world over as Chasing Artwork, and a very special guest from one secret location to another, Peter Tchaikovsky, the author, designer, dare I say, inventor of the Story Engine deck and the Deck of Worlds, has come to talk to us about a new exciting thing, but in particular, how stories fit together, why they fit together, and when they fit together. And I think that's so exciting. Peter, welcome.
Thank you so much. I have to cancel this interview right now so I can go update my bio with Inventor. That's just like I straight up have to rewrite my bio. That's so good.
You are, though. You invented something new, which is in the world of storytelling, a little machine, a story engine that can take a person's lack of ideas and turn it into a multitude of ideas. I just think it's such a cool thing. So for context, for our dear listeners who don't know who you are, don't know anything you've done, why don't you first introduce the idea of the story engine, just so that will get our conversation framed up nicely?
Yeah. So the Story Engine is a deck of cards that you use to build and customize your own writing prompts. I've always loved writing prompts, but I used to find, especially ones where like they're supplied to you, they can sometimes be restrictive, or like they already do the work of coming up with the concept, so all you're doing is executing someone else's idea sometimes. And I wanted to figure out, like, if you were going to build a prompt or just like build the outline of a story, what are the essential parts of that? So the concept of the deck was basically to come up with 5 card types that together are like the Legos that you can build any kind of story shape out of, or a huge variety of story shapes or story elements out of. So like you might stack a character type of card with a motivation type of card with a location type of card, and suddenly you have a story about say like a gardener who has like fallen in love with a flower and wants to save it from climate change.
Okay, so you say character. I'm going to pause you there. Character, location, motivation.
Yeah.
What we always are breaking apart here at the studio and on this show is the hill I will die on is that all stories have the same structure. It's someone somewhere wants something and a complication ensues.
Yeah.
And that is why we remember stories, because stories we can retell have this in common. And now you said there are 5 parts, and you mentioned character, location, motivation. What are the other 2 in the deck?
Yeah, so I diagrammed the deck concept off of a very similar concept of story from Canadian novelist Douglas Glover, who wrote The Enamored Knight. And The Enamored Knight, he says a story consists of someone wanting something and having trouble getting it. Yeah. And I've always just like, that sentence to me, like, blew my mind wide open, just like, yeah. And so, yeah, so the card types are agent cards are the someones, those are the characters, agent cards. The engine cards are the motivations, that's the wanting. The something cards are the anchor cards, which are those cards have a combination of places, objects, events, but basically non-people things in the story. And then there's the conflict card, which is the trouble, or like you said, the complication that ensues. And the conflict cards, sometimes it's a price that has to be paid before the person gets what they want. Sometimes it's a consequence that happens after for pursuing what they want. And then the last card type was the aspect card deck. And these are basically just little adjectives that you can use to describe and characterize either the agents or the anchors, so the people or the things. And what I was finding when I had just a 4-card concept of the deck, when I was playing around with it, was that I would often want to know a little bit more about, like, okay, well, who is this? Or what kind of thing do they want? And having that extra card type that you can like attach to other cards just added this layer of like remixability. And to me, what was most fun was finding aspect cards and like these cues, these words that were surprising fits, and then seeing my brain, even before I noticed it was doing it, doing the work of trying to figure out, well, what does it mean if you have a person and you would characterize them as ghostly? Like I was mentioning, ghostly is the adjective. What is a ghostly person? What does that mean? And in what sense are they a ghost? And so I found that like unintuitive word pairings are like some of my favorite things.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So just a full disclosure for the dear listener, this might be their first episode and they've never heard of this before, but I have a story system different in how it is enacted, but it's called Danger in the Details. But it basically falls around that same structure of someone somewhere wants something, a complication ensues, and then whatever detail you attach to those things, like you say, the unexpected pairing is the most delicious element of it that just sends your imagination in the wildest directions. Yeah. So you and I are excited by similar things in storytelling.
Yeah, I've noticed, because I remember our last conversation when I came on, like it was years ago. I think I was still living in Toronto at the time. And I think that like we both have an obsession with the form of a story, and like what are the parts and the bits and pieces that you can take out. And that obsession has never abated for me. It's still something that I like, always tinkering with it.
Yeah. So one of the ways that I think about it is from a stolen Da Vinci quote. Like I stole it, he didn't steal it, or maybe he did.
Yeah,
we'll never know.
Story, right? Writing prompt right there.
Right. Movement gives shape to form. And so the idea is that a fish is the shape it is because of the medium it has to move through. A bird is the shape it is because of the medium it has to move through. And so when I'm teaching story lectures or going to speak on this topic, I use that setup to say a story has the shape it is because of the medium it has to move through. And that medium is people and their memory and their ability to retell it. So a simple structure rearranged is manifold. But if you try to start with a complex structure, people stop listening.
Yeah.
Right. So why don't you speak to what the story deck and the story engine does to, say, a novelist or role-playing game designer or someone who is like, okay, how do I use this deck and where does it fit together? And then I'm going to put you and Justin on the grill for how you build lore. But let's first talk about the other piece.
Yeah. So for the thing that I really like about the story engine deck is that it is very much like a Lego set. Like, and by Lego set I mean like an old school. It's like one of those big box of mixed Legos that like you cannot tell what the provenance is. There's like a bunch of different. It's not like the only thing you can build out of this is a flower shop like it shows on the box. It's like a big mixed set of like old school Legos from a bunch of places that you can build whatever you want out of. So it comes with a little guidebook with some suggested prompt structures, but you really can go in any direction with it. So for a novelist, I would suggest for their first thing, drawing a story seed prompt. So for a story engine deck, you'd basically draw a character. You would draw an agent card. You would draw them an engine card or a motivation. I think you have the world building deck out right now.
It's the wrong deck.
Yeah, deck of worlds I have. Oh, you spotted me looking through it. I was gonna catch you off guard with a card prompt, but you're too observant.
Let's do it. I love it. My favorite thing is doing live prompts.
What do you feel like doing, man? I got it. Perfect for you, wild man.
You and I met through comic conventions. I met both of you in your work individually, and then got to know you as an artistic duo. It's been very cool to continue to see your empire expand. But it was such a fun moment for me because I developed Story Engine mostly during the pandemic, and I was not doing conventions for a very long time, and I'm still not doing very many conventions, but I'm occasionally doing some. And the first time that I got to start pitching it in person, which for me, usually I'm used to pitching stuff in person for a very long time, and then I bring it to the internet and publish it. And this time it was opposite. I brought it to the internet first, and then got to do my first in-person demos, like a year and a half after releasing it. And I've never had so much fun pitching at the table, never in my life. Because even if, no matter who I'm talking to, there's something about it that clicks. And literally every pitch is like coming up with a story idea with a total stranger in the span of 60 seconds.
Okay, so for the dear listener, what I've done is I found the right box, and I have story engine. Tell me if I've done this right. I've drawn an anchor. We haven't looked at what they are. They're at random. Yeah. An anchor card, a conflict card, an engine card, an aspect card, and an agent card. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we have one of each parts. So why don't you walk Justin through what he's supposed to do with it? Because I have a little bit more knowledge about it than he does, and this will be better.
Yeah, let's do it. So flip over the agent card with the yellow border, and you're going to see there's 4 cues printed along the outside. These are basically just like character types. You can choose to interpret these literally or figuratively. And go ahead and pick one of those and rotate it so that word is facing you.
All right, we're going with the scam artist.
A scam artist. Love it. Love it. A scam artist comes with conflict baked in, right? Like there's some kind of lie going on. Like we know there's going to be trouble. I love that. It's such a fun pick. And then so go ahead and turn over the engine card. There's going to be 2 cues, and you'll pick one of those.
Oh, cool.
Ooh. So one is wants to be saved by, and the other is wants to save.
So go ahead and pick one of those, and we're going to complete this with the anchor in a sec. So if you decide like you pick one thing and then the anchor gives you a different vibe, you can always just rotate it and change it. One of the sort of fun things about the deck is that it's meant to be constantly permutable. So any of your choices are not permanent. And I feel like that's something that writers should embrace in general.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
First
don't
draft
get-
messy.
Yeah. Don't get attached to those ideas. Let them be fluid for as long as you can.
Okay. Wants to save. I like the idea of a scam artist. You usually think somebody a little bit more gritty and troubled and more of like an evil character usually.
A nebulous morality.
Yeah. Going with wants to save. So now we have like a lovable scam artist maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I love it. And I love like someone who in their nature of how we understand them is dishonest.
Yeah.
Caring about something earnestly.
We're going to use it for
Where-
good.
Yeah, and that's where you know what their truth is, right? Their truth is in the thing that they care about. And I love that play with like dishonesty and truth. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So let's flip over the anchor card and pick that cue.
Hard. Okay. I think you should choose this one, Gregory.
Okay, well, I'll read out what we got. So the anchor card has 4 different things on it: a hotel, piece of furniture, a curse, immediately my favorite, a work of art, which, in a way is a curse.
Yeah.
The least exciting is a piece of furniture. So I almost want to go with that one.
Do you ever
Yeah.
tilt them so that they're like
A curse on a piece of furniture.
a cursed piece of furniture? Like you ever tilted and combined? Like a hotel that's a work of art, or a furniture that is also cursed?
But that's actually a mechanic in the new deck that's coming out.
Oh, yeah?
It's I call it the have your cake and eat it too.
Okay, so a scam artist wants to save if they're a hotel, a piece of furniture. Let's make it something weird. Like this is the MacGuffin to me. If we make it a piece of furniture, this will prove or disprove whether you can make a story unexpected. Like to me, that's the worst choice.
Because it's a footstool.
Right? Because who knows what it is. But let's see now if we add more on top of it, can we make it compelling?
Yeah, so let's pull a conflict card. Flip that one over and we'll pick one of those 2 options.
Okay, so the 2 options are, but they will lose their closest friend.
Oh no.
And then the other one is, but they must reconcile with an old enemy.
Oh,
Ooh.
who's their closest friend, I think. But reconcile. Oh.
Somebody they scammed horribly in the past. They must
Yes.
now.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Yeah, for
They
sure.
must reconcile with an old enemy. Okay, so just for the dear listener to catch up, we have a scam artist who wants to save some piece of furniture, but must reconcile with an old enemy. Now, here a story starts to form, and I think that's the beauty of these kinds of prompts.
I'm trying not to like lock it in too much
The scam artist sold the object at too high a price.
there's something
Scam
secret
someone,
in.
It finds out there's something hidden in that object that they need to recover.
There's Bitcoin on a
To
USB.
save somebody,
hidden in-
No, slap that Bitcoin out of your mouth. What are you doing? Okay, so then next is, or last is the
Going
aspect.
to be the aspect card. So you flip that over. There's going to be 4 adjectives on there, and you can tuck it underneath either the scam artist or the piece of furniture, and that's going to be a descriptor that applies to it.
Okay, so
Oh.
for the dear listener who can't see the cards in front, the descriptor then is something you can attach to this set, and this is fluid. This is at your discretion as the
Yeah, sometimes I discard the aspect card if like none of them speak to me. Sometimes I'll draw 2 and pick my favorite. Sometimes I'll pick 2 and draw 2 and pick both and put 1 under the agent card, 1 under the anchor card. But the kind of like vanilla flavor, like as written, is you'd pick 1, you draw that card, you'd pick 1 of the words, and you'd attach it to either the agent or the anchor.
But its role is to give your whims agency as the person who selected the card, right? Like we've already made up a backstory, a delicious backstory for our scam artist, so which one fits. So why don't you read, Justin, what they say?
So there's traumatic, misunderstood, gilded, or revolutionary.
Ooh.
Because like revolutionary furniture could literally be like of the revolution era. Same thing with gilded. But I'm also like, I'm liking traumatic. I often double read as traumatized as well.
Sure.
So you can double read that one.
A misunderstood scam artist.
Yeah.
Or maybe their conflict that they're trying to reconcile is because of a misunderstanding.
Yeah, so you can tack the aspect cards. Generally speaking, they're designed to fit agent and anchor, but you can tuck them under other cards. The other thing that you can do is like that that conflict card that we have about reconciling with an enemy. We could just pull another agent card right now to figure out who the enemy is if we want to, right? Or you can fill that gap in with your mind.
Sure.
So this is what I mean by like the system is fluid. Like this is where you can just start sticking Legos on top of other Legos.
I love that you keep comparing it to Lego, and like the thing that immediately went to my mind is if you line up 10 kids and give them all that same box of multicolored bricks, no two kids are going to have anything that looks similar, right? Like it's all going to be original creations. And yeah, I think it's just a fantastic comparison.
There is that beauty in the fact that simple things arranged in context with one another creates a nearly endless, I mean, you can calculate it mathematically, obviously, using factoring.
32 billion potential combinations in the main deck.
Right. It gives you this sense of discovering something that you could not discover under any other circumstance except drawing that card. But then your mind goes in all the different ways that that could work. Okay, so you picked one more agent card.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a merchant, an investor, a grifter, or a miser.
Oh, we could have grifter versus grifter with scam artist grifter.
Scam artist and a grifter.
So let's.
I like all of them. I like all those options.
No, it's good.
This piece of furniture. Can we take a second and figure out what is special about this piece of furniture? Because in my mind, the scam artist has sold this piece of furniture thinking that he's won, right? I got more money than this is worth, but then finds out that this is actually there's something special about it. And I don't know if it's something special about the piece of furniture or the piece of furniture had something special hidden within it.
I like all this, but okay, so let me say the following thing that I'm observing here, which I think would be fun to step out and just be a little meta for a second as an inventor to speak to. One of the things I observe that is occurring is that once you have two agents, right, it creates an imagined space between them, not unlike a piano string, right, that depending on where you hit it is going to give you a different sound. And that the author, in this case, the person deciding, is deciding like what is the sound that they're hoping will have resonance with the rest of the details that they've selected.
Yeah.
Right. So that when you get them all together, they seem to make sense. As an inventor, how did you not lose your bloody mind making a stack of these details?
I mean, I would say that I did do that. The process of like coming up with the content for these decks is very manic. My mom taught me the meaning of the word monomania when I was 10 because she was observing it in my behavior, and I was 32 when I got my diagnosis for ADHD, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. That puts the last 3 decades of my life in context all of a sudden. But I love, without going on too long of a tangent here, I love the process of like brainstorming the elements for the deck, coming up with those big word lists, figuring out how to categorize them, and then figuring out how to balance a card so that the right combination of cues are on a card, and that literal-minded people and figurative-minded people will both have something that they can chew on the same card. That the cues feel like they have a thematic connection, but don't feel so similar to each other that there's not variety. That was kind of the process. But yeah, it's those details where like there's a chemistry, there's like or like you said, there's a sound, a resonance, a frequency that starts to ring when you put them next to each other.
Created by the tension in the space. The farther away they are, the tighter the tension in a way.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so my instinct here is not to pick grifter because grifter is too close to scam artist and it doesn't create the kind of tension I like in stories.
Yeah.
But them being the same also creates a different kind of tension depending on how you look at it.
Come on, what does it say?
Milt Malkin is full of hot air.
Now that is an advertising message. Not necessarily the message we're trying to get across, but a message.
Define grifter for me.
So, you know, a grifter is someone who says one thing, means another, and ultimately is trying to separate you from your money or your possessions.
And you think like low level thief when you say grifter, right? It's not somebody who's very
Every story about a
elaborate
two-man con has been a bunch of grifters, right?
All right. So like here's
We're grifters. We move,
We're
we take our suitcases full of art and we separate people from their money in other cities. Really, when they get home, they realize this is just a piece of paper, Peter. I gave them my money for this.
But the money was, in fact, a piece of paper all along.
Oh, no. Yes. So, too true. A grifter and a scam artist meet at a convention.
Yeah.
Trade two pieces of paper.
Yeah. I mean, I would differentiate them myself in that I see a scam artist as someone who like they have a structured plan. Like they have like a specific job that they're pulling. Whereas a grifter, I think, can be as much of a mindset where you're like, you're consistently looking for the advantage so that you can walk away with more than you walked in with, or walk away with more than the other person's going to get. Because like a business person can be totally doing things totally legally and follow the law and still be grifting.
yeah.
But they couldn't be a scam artist, because scam artists at that point, you're doing something that is fraud. You're doing like a specific kind of planned, structured transgression.
Here's what I've got. So the scam artists, their plan, their overall strategy is they sell fake copies of furniture, like a revolutionary, turn of the century,
Love it.
important. Yeah, they sell
like literally revolutionary era furniture.
Furniture that's like plagiarized. They're mock-ups, they're copies. So, but then turns out he sold this chair that's like Winston Churchill's chair, which was supposed to be a fake. Turns out it's actually real. But the guy he sold it to, a merchant or a grifter, is planning an insurance scam where he's going to burn down his building with everything in it for the insurance money.
Which is a real one in there.
But there's actually a real one in there. So the scam artist must now reconcile with an old enemy to stop him from burning down the building with the real piece of art in it, not the fake piece of art.
Beautiful. And let's make it, I just looked up the Revolutionary War. Let's make it somehow connected to the Treaty of Paris. The object, right, that they sat in when they signed the Treaty of Paris.
Yeah.
Or the piece of furniture.
Yeah.
Right.
And for our dear listeners, I've been fist pumping for the last like 45 seconds. Just every detail coming out. I've been like, yes, yes, yes.
Well, and fans of the podcast, or if you're new to it, you will soon discover that nothing excites Justin and I possibly more than story breaking. We do story breaking episodes all the time. And what we do is we set it in the silo of a genre, Peter. So we will say horror movies are like this. Let's set all the things that usually happen in horror movies and let's try to remix them into something that seems original, even though we're using only the parts we all recognize. A haunted house, a group of teenagers, a mad scientist, and a werewolf in the bog, you know, stuff we've all seen before. Let's try to do it in an exciting way and make something new. What would you suggest is the best use of this in an ongoing way? So if I'm on chapter 1 of my story and I've started as a result of this, there's like thousands of cards in this box. Okay, maybe hundreds, but they have thousands of combinations. I would be obsessed with wanting to use it over and over and over as an ongoing story sort of machine. It's literally called the story engine. How do I keep the engine running as I write long form things?
Yeah, so there's a section in the back of the guidebook that covers this a little bit, and then on top of that, I'd recommend coming up with a bit of your own mad science for it, because the section at the back is about how to like permute prompts. So if you get stuck with one, how do you change it up or workshop it or tweak it? But on top of that, once you have that instinct for like, okay, well, I've resolved this storyline with the furniture, or that storyline is stalled for a moment, I need another element. That will show you how to, say, add a second motivation off the other side of the character, which gives them a conflicting priority. So all of a sudden they have a second motivation where they want to win over an investor. Let's say an investor pool. They want to win over an investor. We pulled a new engine card, a new agent card as this time receiving the motivation.
Hold on, we're just going to do it. Let's not make it up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's make it up. Okay, so we need a new, what kind of card? Oh, that's
we're going to need a new another engine card and then another agent card.
Engine and agent. Okay. All right. Okay.
And I'm going to say we're going to position this so that this is the scam artist having just a second motivation. So this is another motivation they have, and it's directed at a character this time, not at an object.
So their sense of agency, that's what we're drawing next. We're looking at that next.
No, let's look at the engine next. So this is a second motivation for our scam artist.
Oh, I like this. Okay, so for the dear listener, the engine cards are binary. There are two ideas that. So this one, in example, is wants to unmask the conspiracy of, or wants to enact a secret plan revolving around.
So I'm really vibing the unmask, because when you're a scam artist and you're trying to expose someone else, you really are putting yourself in the line of fire.
Now you're motivated by something. So if they've got this piece of they burn all this stuff, they're trying to collect the insurance money. What if, to make it look like they're not covering up, like that it's not an insurance scam, a human person will lose their life. Like the guy's mother or someone is going to die in the fire because you wouldn't commit murder to commit fraud, but this guy is capable of it.
Yeah. So if we're willing to let go, and this is what I mean by like not being locked in or being fluid. If we want to let go of that, like, but he's got a heart of gold or he's misunderstood, like that's the avenue that opens up.
Right.
But we could plug that motivation into, so that other agent card we drew. This is a new character who this character is trying to unmask.
Okay, so would this be, so this is who they're unmasking. So this is unrelated. So we've got you go ahead.
An introvert, a dreamer, a grump, a wanderer.
Ooh. Think a wanderer, a dreamer? Oh, that's tricky.
Yeah.
So because as a new character, so in my so Susie Maloney, I always give her credit because this is where it started with me. She would say, whenever you want to introduce something in the story, the question you ask yourself is, why this? Why now? Right? So our problem as storytellers were that we had a story that was kind of too simple in a way. We knew everything there was to know, and in order to complicate it, we need to muddy the motivations of the character, right? So in that context, we would look at an introvert or a wanderer or a grump. Why this? We know why this. We need to complicate the relationship of our scam artist with the problem, right? And they want to unmask the conspiracy of?
Maybe it's an insurance investigator.
Oh, the wanderer, someone who comes to town to investigate.
I was imagining like a freelance journalist type person who like goes around and like exposes scams like this. And who maybe has their own grift in what they do. And so this person is like, I got to take down kind of the guy who's, shrinking the ecosystem that I can survive in as a scam artist.
Okay, so what's your relationship with the idea of, and I think this is the feature, this is not a bug of the story engine deck that I'm addressing, but just you as an inventor. What is your relationship with that there are no questions answered by this tool? There are only questions created by this tool, right? That's all it really does. Is it forces us. That's what it's done this whole time, is to provide answers to a question we didn't know existed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that humans are really good at. Like as a species, if you look at how our brains are wired, you give us a pattern, you give us a bunch of things that aren't related, and we will find a way to relate them,
connect them.
And the more those things fit certain shapes and patterns, the more intuitive it is for us. And so I really like lobbing that challenge of like, here's a bunch of unrelated words. What pattern do you see? What story do you see here? And yeah, like I say, I think you're right. I see it as a feature, not a bug, that a lot of the time you add this new element and the person's already trying to work backwards from how do I make that make sense? And I think you start from the direction of trying to do that. How do I make that make sense? Or how to make this matter in the context of the story? Like I like that question of why this, why now? You try to answer those questions for yourself, and if you can't, then discard the card and draw another one, or sometimes the motivation is the part you want, and that new agent, we just decided to pretty much ignore the cue and to go wide and go very interpretive with turning a wanderer into an investigator or a wanderer into a journalist. We decided to go wide and basically invent our own answer to that because it fit better than the randomization. And I think a lot of the challenge of the cue writing is trying to come up with one word in every card that is wide enough to let people read into it, or just giving them permission to be like, I don't like this card, chuck it, draw a new one.
I don't spend a lot of time in boardrooms. Why don't we all adjourn this meeting to a place we're a little more familiar with?
It also bears exploring that my instinct was not, I didn't like those four because I didn't really like them. My instinct was not, let's draw a new card to solve it. It was instead, I bet if we think hard enough, we can make it fit. Because there's already 4 options on the card.
Yeah.
So rather than immediately feel like, oh, it's not working, I go back to the deck to draw another one. Your brain kind of, at least mine did, kind of hovered in those few milliseconds over each one and said, if this, then that. If this, then that. If this, then that. Oh, that's the one. That's the one that I like best.
Yeah. I think there's definitely there's value in, I think, for every writer, like not just with this deck, but in general, like challenging that first draft thing that you used to fill in, of like letting your brain do that hard work of like lingering a little bit longer on the question, trying to solve it. And I think there's also value in being able to like, we'll put a pin in it, we can change it later or figure it out later and move on, but here's the placeholder. It's going to be something like this. And I've taken a lot of stories that have started one place with the story engine deck, and I got the overall structure and I got the theme because of the cards that were picked, and then I just totally changed the details because I'm like, I actually want this to be this way, or I feel like this serves the story better. So I always treat this, the story engine is meant to shift your starting line for storytelling, but it is not meant to be the finish line, right? Like it's meant
Like the
to
springboard that starts things off. So like in a very short amount of time here, like we're like almost ready to pitch this to Guy Ritchie for his next film, I think.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
so-
Guy Ritchie notoriously loves movies about revolutionary furniture restoration.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't know if you knew that. Little known fact breaking
Yeah.
here on Super Pulp Science.
Okay, so my question is like, you must have, like, people must have taken this and actually made like books or other stories, like
Stories,
fully
displays,
fleshed
I'm
out
sure, yeah.
that started with this. Have you been getting credits?
Yeah, what's
or-
the indicator of success to you as the
Yeah,
creator of this?
like
My favorite thing is just getting stories about how people have used it and for whatever fulfillment means to them. And I know that sounds like a corny answer, but it really is. Like my favorites are when I get emails from like parents who did this as an activity with their kids. And especially when it's like kids who've had trouble structuring their ideas or who have trouble like communicating, and all of a sudden they have a tool that helps them like be creative, and they're making creative, interesting choices that like are the definition of creativity, but there's enough structure that it helps them get it down. Like that's my absolute favorite. But we've had like C.L. Clarke sold a novel called The Warmongers to Tor that was written using Story Engine Deck plus Deck of Worlds. They stapled them together, and that's going to be coming out in, I think it's next year or later this year. And yeah, people have
publishing
done.
is nebulous, so
Yeah.
the important thing is a novel came, right?
Yeah, but a novel came out of it, and Victor Manabo, a novelist, talked about on a podcast recently about how he used the deck for sort of prompting and writing when he was working on his writing. So it's been cool to like see little bits of evidence of like, oh, this has made its way out into the world. But it for me, it's really like when people figure out, oh, this is just Lego. Like I can build whatever I want, and they go off book and they start building their own style of prompts. Like to me, that's always my favorite moment. And then my favorite thing about kids using it is like they do that pretty intuitively. Like they have very little interest in following the instructions it's written. They just start picking it up and sticking the bits on the bits that they think are interesting, and they get something really cool and amazing. Like
Yeah, I spent a lot of time going to classrooms with the Danger in the Details system, and I'm basically telling teachers like my job is really just to get kids to use their imagination. They're like, oh, they're writing so much, they're doing so much work, I can't believe what you did. And I'm like, all I did was not tell them the answer.
Yeah.
That's all I did. I presented them things where any answer was the correct answer, and now they all want to participate, right? This has that same feeling. Now I have one very specific question to the inventor. I keep using this word because I know you like it now. The inventor of Story Engine, right? And then we're going to talk about lore. So your engine card has 2 options, and your agent cards and your agent cards and aspect cards, anchor cards have 4 options. That's not accidental. Why?
I found with motivations, the motivations felt more universal, and the specifics of a character type or an object type felt very specific. So I didn't feel that there needed to be as many options, because desire, wanting, forms of wanting tend to be much more universal, right? Like we all kind of want the same things. We want love and acceptance. We want to feel strong and capable. We want to feel safe. Because those are so universal, I found that I didn't need to get as granular with them. So instead, giving someone two really two choices that often felt like flips of the same coin. Like a lot of the motivations are mirrors of each other on opposite sides of that
I
card.
was just going to point that out. In this engine, it says wants to unmask the conspiracy of, which is like reveal a secret that someone else is holding, or wants to enact a secret plan revolving around, right? So those are flips of the coin.
Yeah, and I found with when I was playtesting engines, and I would sometimes try to do fit four in a card, which, you know, just design wise, spatially, I didn't like how cramped it got. But what I found was there ended up being too much choice, and the engines worked best when you gave solid consideration to like two big thematically open options. And same thing with the conflicts. Same thing with the conflicts. The price that we pay for the things that we love often takes the same sort of shape. And I felt that I didn't need to get as granular with that, and again, leaving that a little bit more open felt right. And again, for my graphic designer brain, felt a lot better, and it gave me the freedom to write these longer, slightly more complex ones too, or more, I should say, more verbally complex. Because one of the things that was really crucial with, say, the conflict cards was making sure that the stakes felt high enough. You know, the stakes were raised to the point that it felt like a real conflict and not just like a minor annoyance or like a small thing to deal with.
As a storyteller yourself, you've done lots of other projects we haven't talked about. We'll give you a moment to shill that in a minute. This comes to a meeting that I had just before we sat down with you. Ariel Gordon and I are working on a novel. It's a epistolary novel, so we're each writing these letters set in this future conflict. And she said, you know, what's going to happen to this character? The character's name's Albany for now, right? What's going to happen to Albany? I think he should, you know, live happily ever after. And I said, boring. Convince me that it's more interesting to the reader that he lives than that he dies or suffers, right? Not that I want him to suffer. I'm actually, you know, a pacifist at heart. I want everyone to get along and love each other. But we love it when characters are in conflict and suffering. How do you approach that aspect of storytelling as far as the immutable nature of the deck, right? So if you have built a big story, you've got your characters, you've got your elements, and then you decide to make a major change about one. Is there some suggestion? These rules are, you know, the rules you have here are quite extensive, but speaking to the inventor himself, what would you suggest is the best way to rework the whole system, but leave most of your choices intact?
Can you? I'm having trouble understanding what that means as a question. So
the core question is: let's say Justin and I are working on a novel together using the story prompts. Yeah. Right. So we have our characters, we have their motivations, we have this kind of stuff, and then later, you've got maybe 5 or 6 layers of the deck. You decide we got to remove somebody. How does it not pull the whole scaffold apart?
I think what you need to do is look at the value or the connection or the frequency or the resonance that element was bringing. And notice, like, is it going to be noticeable that it's gone? Is there really a gap left there? And B, is there another way that that same element can be brought by another character or another element that's already in play? So like reusing an existing element instead of bringing in a new one. So
like in that instance, you might change the like in my mind, I'm stuck in my own verbiage. The details of that character in this case might be their motivation. You might flop, and then you can say, would it be more interesting if instead of hiding something, they were revealing something? You could just go through and
literally flip the card.
Temple. Albertson. Holy Christ, I'm Jewish.
While you're still in the ideation phase and you're still in the plotting phase, that's the easiest time to do that. And I would say, like, go nuts, have fun with it. Like, literally flip the cards over, see if the story feels different or you like it more or it's more interesting. Or like, what if you end up using both? That's one of my favorite things is what if this character has a really complex relationship with, say, the furniture piece? They want to save it, but also they want to be saved by it. What if there is some part of them that they're not even aware of that, like, thought that this piece was going to be their big break, that they thought that this is how they get out of the game, and this is their last.
I'm too old for this shit. Gonna
Yeah,
retire.
exactly. One more big job, and then I'm out. I swear. So play with it. Like play with those concepts, switch them out, and I think you'll find that again, that same elasticity in your thinking and your brain that lets you make these things make sense in the first place will continue to fill in the gaps as you switch those elements out. And if you do need to remove anything wholesale, just like you would do with any other element you're writing, like look at what is lost if I cut this, and if there's anything that's lost that feels like it still needs to be there, how do I bring it back in? So like a supporting, like a lot of stories have like a good friend character who's like the moral support and who like might come in when things are going bad in the second act to like console our character or like remind them what they care about. If we cut that character, could we instead have like, we know they're a furniture maker, we're already using that, or that they're a furniture scammer or like reproducer. What if there is like one piece that is not a fake in their collection, and that piece is like their reminder of their moral center or like a value that they actually hold? We still need that second act boost. We know that's important. We don't want support character anymore. Can a piece of furniture fill the role of like, remember who you are, Simba?
So what's cool about, like, and now I'm just stuck in our story mode now. I'm coming back to it. You have a person who makes fakes and sells them as original, and every now and then, to balance their own moral compass, they sell an original as a fake.
Yeah. Oh, I really like that. I recently read the Goldfinch, the novel, real doorstopper, but the main character, he's not the reproducer, but he has basically made friends with a very naive and trusting furniture restorer who likes to make fakes, but only for his own like purposes. He just does it for fun and as an exercise. And this guy starts selling them. And eventually, the chickens come home to roost and he has to deal with it. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything by giving that much.
Wait. Imagine the number of things that had to occur in the world for you to pull scam artists and us decide that they would be
piece
something
of furniture.
Fake furniture, and you're reading a book about it.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, there's several points in this conversation I've been like, do I bring up the goldfinch or bring up the goldfinch? And now we're at the point where like, I think I need to bring up the goldfinch because there is, there is this combination of, he's also sold real pieces, not as fakes. He sold real pieces, and they kind of help camouflage the fakes and the scams. But I really like this idea that like it's his own, like the way that like a company that absolutely destroys the planet will plant trees one day a year,
right?
And then now we're carbon neutral. I love the idea that that's his, like, this is my tree planting day.
Yeah. This is my tree planting. It's amazing. Okay, so story engine, a deck of worlds to build sort of the setting of a story more specifically. And on top of setting now, particularly in, say, science fiction or fantasy, you fall into what we call lore building, right?
Yeah.
This is your new obsession, and it's been our obsession at the studio for years. I'm excited to know that you have a new tool related to that. And for the dear listeners' context, Justin's working on a graphic novel with how many? It's an ensemble cast of how many main characters?
There's 5 main characters and 3
how many monsters?
Oh, lots of monsters.
Hundreds.
Yeah. I'm building all the art assets for like a classic RPG game and telling a story with it. So it has like a full bestiary in the back, bestiary, however you pronounce it, full of monsters. A character that starts off on her little adventure and picks up her team along the way. They save the world at the end versus a huge demigod, multi-formed, multi-battle, classic RPG type stuff.
And we're different enough in age that when he says RPG, he means like a video game. And when I say RPG, I mean a role-playing game on a table. And they made us tack on TTRPG. So I'm from that era. And we're designing a bunch of that stuff here at the studio, a bunch of tabletop role-playing game stuff too. So lore we're all about lore. Tell us what the hell you're up to, because I feel like it'll help.
Yeah, so the Lore Masters deck is the project that I'm launching on June 20th. And I'm not sure if that's in the past or the future as of the broadcasting of this, and also when you're listening to this as a listener. So at some point in time, relative to you, June 20th, 2023, the Lore Masters deck will go on Backerkit. We're launching on Backerkit as a crowdfunding campaign. And it's a deck for coming up with, I'm calling them lore webs. It's for developing lore webs, one card at a time. And I think you mentioned earlier that it's so interesting to see like when two cards are put in context with each other, it's the connection between them sort of that creates the meaning. And that is what the lore deck is really powered by. So you start by drawing one card of one of there's sort of 7 main types of cards. You can draw cards for factions, for figures, for events, locations, objects, materials, as in like physical materials, and creatures or species. You can make monsters with this, which is a lot of fun. And then there's an 8th card type, which is kind of like the aspect cards. It's the wild card, and these are traits that you can apply to any other card. But basically, you'll start by drawing a card of one of these types. Let's imagine it's gonna be like a faction to start. And I usually start with a faction for examples. And you'll pick a similar like 1-word prompt for like what your faction's gonna be. It might be like a block, BLOC, like a political block. It might be a battalion, like a military unit. It might be a circle, like a druid circle or a mage's circle, or it might be a plot, like a coup. So you've drawn this. You'll pick your one for the faction, and then one new thing that we're introducing with this deck is that all the cards are double-sided. So every faction card on its backside has 4 cues that are specific for like describing or learning about the faction. So you'll draw more faction cards that use the backside, and there'll be these little descriptors. So sometimes it'll be like a background for the faction, like they were originally founded under a different name than they use now. Or there will be a current trait, like they have a very eccentric leader, or they're like known for nepotism. And then there will often be an agenda, which is kind of like a little bit like the engine cards from the story engine deck. It's something that they want or they're trying to get done in the world. So you'll pick a bunch of these cards and tuck them under your main card. So that ends up with these 4 properties attached to it. And some of those cues or properties will link to another card type. So I mentioned like an eccentric leader as an example of a cue. So we pulled out a faction. We've chosen that we're going to do a circle of druids. I'm now going to pull a figure card, which is like the a character. I'm going to figure out who this leader is. That becomes a whole separate prompt next to and attached to it that has this established relationship that starts to connect these things in the lore of your world. And then I'm going to draw a series of prompts to understand who that figure is. And maybe one of those prompts is that this figure led a notable uprising or event. Great. I want to learn about that event. Draw an event card. Draw some descriptors for it. Well, that event took place and it led to the destruction of a specific location. What location is it? Pull a location. So you end up with this, like literally you can model that process that I think a lot of us as world builders have gone through, where we're like, okay, yeah, this character needs to have been born somewhere. What place is that? Okay, well, that place needs to have like be defined somehow. What kind of industry do they use? Sorry, my phone is ringing and I'm just gonna stop it.
Hello? Hello, Mona, is that you? This is Jonathan.
Oh, hello.
It is you. Gosh, you sound so young. Now, what is your secret?
Jonathan, you stop that. I love it.
That was Guy Ritchie on the phone.
Yes.
Guy Ritchie, yeah, I know. I told him that it's got to be like $1 million up front, or we're all gonna walk. So plain hard to get.
Yeah.
I'll text him back.
We'll take our Revolutionary War furniture story and we're going somewhere else.
Yeah. We'll pitch it to an auction house. There we go.
Okay, so to give us some framing here, to the dear listener, I myself consider, people talk about being visual learners. I'm a visual organizer. I cannot use a digital planner at all because it's too linear. I have to use a giant board that has all the tasks I have with the dates they're due on them that I can rearrange as necessary in order to get things done. Right? Oh my God. Hold on, wait. Nobody else can see this, but I'm gonna show. Look at, can you see it over there?
What?
Yeah, it's like this. It was
like
same tape and
identical.
everything.
Same tape. We have green tape. Okay.
That is uncanny.
That's
Dear
okay.
listener, we have
Peter.
the exact same task board that we have independently engineered.
Peter, if I wasn't happily married, I'd want your digits to and romantic poems to. Okay, so what you didn't see, dear listener, is that how Peter and I are organizing things and how we do it at the studio is by task cards in various stages of completion rather than on a calendar. So if you're like that, these kinds of story engine decks are the perfect, I think personally, the perfect way to be able to look at a cloud of data at a glance that in your own imagination equals the story you're trying to build. so that you just have all the mnemonic devices all laid out in front of you, and you can find the pattern yourself. I find that so interesting and cool. The fact that you're getting as granular as lore, like there's a specific event and it took place at this time in this place with this person. 12-year-old Gregory, it's like, I had first discovered, I think, the notion that sex was possible at around that same age, and that you could also make up fantasy math.
Hold on. Could you? I think you've just taught me something.
Yeah, right. And so it's almost akin to sexual fantasy. The idea that I would have a tool that would let me build a whole world and then destroy it all in an hour's time.
Oh yeah, there's a module that I'm working on for world breaking, where all you do, you build your world and then you just chuck events at it until something breaks. It's an experimental game mode that I'm playing around with, but I think you would. I think you.
Oh my gosh! Call me back.
Yeah,
call me back, Peter.
So, like, I find when I'm building lore, the tricky part is, like, I like to have it all planned out in my mind, have it all written down somewhere. But the trick is to not tell the reader or viewer about it all, right? The things that you keep secret, the things that you keep vague, that's what make it great. And the example that I use on this podcast over and over again is the Iron Giant. Fantastic movie. And you never find out the backstory of this super intriguing mech, this robot, right? You don't have that backstory explained. And if you were to explain the entire lore of it, I think that would ruin.
Only hint at, just hint at answers. You don't.
So yeah, the writer knows all the lore, but they just give the viewer the snippets that they need, so they can fill it in their mind without doing a big exposition dump of, like, here's the entire backstory of this really interesting character.
Yeah.
So how do you
guide the sequence?
Yeah.
Is there a way, is there a suggestion in building the lore of
what to reveal and what not
to? When to reveal certain things? Great way to put it.
Yeah. So in the deck itself, no, but I think one thing that the deck does is it focuses on a few significant establishing details for each element of your world. So it already helps you filter, like, what are going to be the most relevant points, so that you don't have to come up with, like, the population and demographics of every single city. You're looking at, like, what are the 4 things that I need to know about this city, so that the rest, what are the 4 establishing details that if I put those in place in a scene, people are going to see the rest of it exactly the way that I'm imagining it, because it's implied through those details. So I think it does a little bit of pre-filtering. And then in terms of, like, how to actually decide, like, when do I reveal this, or what do I reveal, what do I withhold? The deck does not solve that problem, but I definitely, every time I do a deck, I start thinking about the theory and craft of world building or lore, and I usually end up writing a bunch of stuff about it. My recommendation would be, I think of it as, like, downloading versus torrenting. When you do lore drops, don't make it a download, make it a torrent, right? A torrent is small packets of data threaded and sent over time in an order that the computer knows how to assemble and make sense of. So for your reader, like, they don't need to know the 5,000 history of the world of Kara Majoris and the 18 factions and the pantheon of 15 gods. They don't need to know that. How do we torrent them? Or actually, probably more like streaming, honestly. Like, give them the data they need at the moment to be able to understand and render the scene in their own mind, and not a drop more.
And from different sources as well. You don't want the one character to sit the other characters down.
Oh gosh, no, yeah.
Explain it all. You want, like, a little snippet here, a little snippet there, coming from different sources and different mediums.
So I have this point sheet that I hand out when I'm doing writing workshops, that are like how to keep track. Some people really like to be motivated by, like, checking off boxes, right? Some people are very motivated by box checking. And so
this is my daily schedule.
Oh my gosh. Look at all those check marks. You're doing great today. You're doing great. So what it does is it says, okay, are you inspired today? Check, right? That's one check mark, and that's worth 1 point. But if you were world building today, there are 20 boxes for world building, because world building isn't writing.
No. Yeah.
You have to check off all 20 before you earn 1 point. They're grouped by check marks, and so many check marks in that section equal 1 point. You try to earn 3 points a day. So if you're spending all your time world building, you're actually not doing the hard part, which is actually telling the story. And what I love about the story engine and the deck of worlds, and now this forthcoming lore deck, is that the reason I say that world building isn't writing is because it takes so much time away to figure all that out in a cohesive way that takes time away from the story. Now you can figure all that. You can take a half an hour and figure out what would normally take you weeks of creating genealogies and little story maps and political histories, all stuff that, as Justin says, you wouldn't give to the reader.
Yeah.
You just want to know so that you know. Now you could know in, a tenth the time, a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and I think of it as, like, you're right, it's not the same thing as writing. There is some writing in it for sure, but I think I would almost, to me, it's almost like coming up with the ingredients that you're going to cook with later. So, and that's how I'd say the Lore Masters deck works, is like, here's a bunch of different, like, here's your protein, here's a bunch of different seasonings, here's a grain, here's a vegetable, here's a fruit, and you go through ahead of time and you figure out, okay, well, what kind of fruit am I using, what kind of protein am I using? You find out how they're going to connect, what the flavor profiles are going to be, how they relate to each other, and then the writing is like, how to now bring this together and cooking it in a dish and making sure that the right amount of each thing is there. So yeah,
we talked about, Justin, but I remember we have one episode where we used cooking analogy the entire time, but I can't remember what. It was writing related. Now I'm going to have to compare these two to see where we're at.
Yeah.
But adding the spice at the right time is important.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and like at the right time and in the right amount, I think is crucial. But the other thing that I'm going to say is, I know that writing is, I agree with you that it's the hard part, but I do think there's like a writer, I wouldn't say a writer bias. I think there's a bias
By all means.
Towards like, I guess I've been taking active steps recently to like step away from the idea that the thing that matters is the writing that gets done, and to be more at peace with the process and enjoying the process and sitting in the process. And that in the same way that, like, I don't end up with a book when I finish doing like yoga. Nothing comes out of yoga, right?
Yeah.
Except for me being a little bit more centered and fulfilled and aware of myself.
Yeah, we always say that publishing is the byproduct of writing, not its point.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And my sort of raison d'etre is to say that writing is a self-archaeology. That's why you're doing it.
Ooh, I love that.
Right? You're digging into yourself for hours a day, and introspection will always yield positive internal results. And that's the reason to do it. And if occasionally a story that someone else would pay money for comes out, great, but that's not why you're in there.
Amazing. Love it. Yeah. So, I think I agree with you there. And what I've seen writers who like will look at someone who only world builds and never gets around to writing the novel, and we'll see that as like, you never did the last step. And I think that the world building can just be its own thing that was like beautiful and fulfilling, if that's what that person wants. I think the hard part is where someone who thinks they're going to be a writer and who wants to be a writer only ever world builds and doesn't realize that by spending too much time in that phase, they are preventing themselves from trying the other scary, hard thing that they really do want to do, and they're mistaking one for the other. And I think that's a problem, because like someone has a goal and they're not able to get this fulfilling experience that they want because it's confusing like what part of the process they're in. But overall, I'm trying to get more attached to the idea that like I can just like sit and play with ideas for 2 days straight, and if all I get out of that is like at the end of it felt good, then like, hey, that was time. That was time well spent.
And that's enough. Yeah, I agree with that too.
There is that pressure that every good idea needs to now become
a
product.
And become a product. I reject that.
It's either Guy Ritchie, call me, or this whole thing was not worth my time. Like that's
right.
But I will say this: there is a group that I have been spending more and more time with recently that I really feel like in the new Backerkit launch, you know how some crowdfunding, it'll say like, if we reach this, we're going to send this many, we did this many copies to schools, this many copies to libraries, we're going to do a public service. Could you undertake, please, to do a public service with your story engine and your lore master deck, to send a copy to every major video game publisher? Because we get the same 3 games forever from the big ones. And I honestly think it's just that they don't have an iteration machine that lets them in a board meeting come up with the next thing. And you did it. Send it. Please help us. Help the next iteration.
I know of a couple, mostly tabletop studios that have a copy in the writer's room, and I'm super duper stoked about that. I was very lucky to get a blurb from the at the time world builder for Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
For Deck of Worlds, Grace, who's just like a really wonderful, talented writer and artist.
We're across. It just occurs to me, we're across the street from EA. We could start
Ubisoft.
Oh yeah, right.
Very
It's
different.
Ubisoft. Very different. I'm sorry, Ubisoft, for comparing you to EA.
Paper towel, Mr. President?
Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
We could just start leaving copies in the lobby.
Hiding them in the bathroom.
Hiding them in the bathroom, wrapping them up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on
I've
it.
I've left copies of my strangest, least explicable, and least popular book at like the Google headquarters, just for fun, like in the break room, just to see what happens. Obviously, nothing results from it, but it is just a fun bit of harmless mischief.
I've been hiding my weirdest book in B&Bs in hard to find places and wrapped in, brown paper with weird symbols on it so that they'll be convinced that it's something occult and
necromantic.
Book of the Dead, situation, totally.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. This is the book. You can see this, but the dealer's against the book in question. And
no English,
and
no
it's just filled with the
recognizable
weirdest-
letters. It's just all.
So if you found it in your wall, you would wonder if your house was damned. Yeah, that's behind it. So,
could you go over quickly? So you're launching this one through Backerkit.
Yeah.
And the previous ones you did through Kickstarter. A lot of our listeners are interested in crowdfunding projects and getting started with that. Could you explain how Kickstarter worked for you and how Backerkit works and pros and cons?
And just so you know that we've covered what we think the pros and cons of Kickstarter are a lot. So the dear listener can find those. And we have some complaints about Kickstarter and some benefits, but I prefer that you focus on what you love about Backerkit.
Yeah, well, I'll talk a little bit about Kickstarter because they are kind of like they were the first one and they kind of set the tone for what crowdfunding became.
The Wild West of the first couple Kickstarter. Wow,
it was utterly wild.
Yeah.
The quick anecdote: the first project that I launched was not under my account. It was a collaboration with my cousin and a friend, both of whom are filmmakers. It was a book called Half Cat. It was like a fake nonfiction book. So it presents itself as nonfiction, but it was all made up. It was all these photoshopped pictures of two-legged cats. And it was like written from the perspective of, under a pseudonym, of a perspective of like a frenzied researcher who like wants to prove that this is a real thing, these half cats. And like anyone who's ever tried to categorically study them or provide positive proofs. Sorry?
Categorically?
Categorically, yeah, categorically. We just end up with like their academic career in shreds and their life in tatters. Like anyone who tries to prove the existence, there's like a curse associated with it. And we did this really this was the book that we had in the Google headquarters, by the way. And we it was a cloth bound, like gold foil stamped cover that looks like this like old weird academic research book, but with like lots and lots of photos. It was a very weird book. Launched that on Kickstarter as like one of the first 5 Canadian projects to launch, and got the attention of some of the just the staff at Kickstarter because it was so weird and they were looking for like Canadian projects to put in front of people and talk about the launch. So we ended up getting an invitation to go do a lunch talk at Kickstarter back in either 2012 or 2014 or 2013, somewhere in that range.
Early days of Kickstarter,
Yeah, and what we should have done was like gone and like make connections and like build relationships, and instead we went in character as Half Cat researchers. Like we were a bunch of like just utterly like we stuck to the fiction of what we were doing through the entire talk. And then eventually when we went to lunch, we started being normal people, but we just decided to go all in on like, no, this is not a networking opportunity. This is performance art. But it was a lot of fun. It was back when Kickstarter was like, it was those early days of like much more Wild West, very, very weird. They were still in their weird Brooklyn headquarters before they moved to another part of New York. But it was fun. They innovated, they created this huge space, and they in some ways did too good of a job. And by that, I mean like so many industries have become dependent on it and have lost their ability to stick to a normal sort of production cycle without it. And I think we really saw the downsides of that when the supply chain crunch happened a couple years ago, when there were global paper shortages. by doing all of this like money up front, and then we'll figure out the budget afterwards. And by opening the gates wide in a way that's really good for like lots of creators to be able to do things, but sometimes putting them in a situation where they had too much success and then had to execute something that was bigger than they could handle. I think we saw a lot of projects starting to struggle with delivering, to struggle with timelines. It began to look like, hey, here's a place where you can go get free money, which it's not. A, it's a ton of work, and B, you have to actually execute and deliver the thing. And I think that as a whole, a lot of the publishing industry became dependent on a way that I didn't like for myself, right? I didn't want a situation where like, if my next crowdfunding campaign goes poorly, or critically, if Kickstarter makes a decision that makes them no longer a viable platform to use, that suddenly I don't have a job anymore because I put all of my eggs in that basket. And I think Kickstarter did make some choices, especially like last year, that made me wonder if they were reading the room correctly.
And I'll just say anecdotally, this is true of all platforms. If you know, if
you're
your
attached to
listener,
YouTube and that's your only,
if you're making all your money from YouTube, you're connected to a platform that does not owe you a thing.
they make
And
some
they can
weird
change their
decisions,
rules
yeah.
anytime. Instagram has done it, Facebook has done it, Twitter has done it, Kickstarter has done it. Crowdfunders will continue to change because they're a company that has their own interest in mind, right? And we're just part of the medium that they're traveling through.
Yeah, exactly. And as more stakeholders get involved on, say, like the leadership of Kickstarter's end, where they're not just worried about like what is the creator experience like, but they have other priorities. Creator experience can get left behind, backer experience can get left behind. And I felt like last year, between the some of the crypto announcements that they were launching, and sort of other pivots in the company, that they weren't really listening to, at least the creator communities that I'm a part of and the backer communities that I'm a part of. I don't think they were reading the room about what we want. And I don't
want to do half cat NFTs on.
Believe it or not, this may shock you, but half cat NFTs is something that no one wants, including myself. But yeah, so I around that time, I've used Backerkit for a pledge manager for a number of projects, and it's been a really, really good, useful tool that was like really well supported in terms of like, if I ever had a creator question, there was always someone who was kind of like drop of a hat away to.
Let's assume, we always assume that a person who is interested in getting their book out there has no idea how crowdfunding works at all. So when you say they were good, can you quantify that a little more granularly?
Yeah, and I guess I'll talk a little bit about what a pledge manager is too, because that might help. Because that was what Backerkit started as. And a pledge manager is basically a tool that plugs into your crowdfunding campaign after the campaign, where you can do like more detailed surveys to get more information. If you're doing like customized tiers, if like someone gets to choose which t-shirt design they get, or is going to be giving, like I've done customized stories where people put a write in a prompt. That's all information that's a lot easier to collect through Backerkit, or any pledge manager. There's other ones out there, but I've really liked working with Backerkit. And the other thing that they do that's very helpful is it lets people add on additional items after the campaign, which is nice because a lot of people don't necessarily have the money to drop like a money on everything that they want right when the campaign's happening. But if they can put in like a seed pledge and then later add on like the collector box or the whatever, it's just a little bit friendlier on their credit card, and it releases some of that like pledge now FOMO, give me all your money or you'll never get it. That like urgency, which is, you know, good for getting pledges, but bad for mental health and developing like a good long-term relationship with your backers and customers. It releases some of that pressure.
Crowdfunding increases as being everywhere, there's a huge onus being put on everyone to support everything.
Yeah,
right?
and if you and if you don't happen to be like cash fluid in this exact 30-day period where I'm doing it, then your experience will be worse because of it. So Pledge Manager lets people add things on later. They can make a smaller pledge and upgrade. There's lots of tools that let it be a little bit more friendly to backers who want to take their time figuring out what they want or want to pay later. So it's been very good for the backer experience on that side. And then just as like a business person, it lets me like continue taking sales, continue taking add-ons. And ultimately, every time I've used it, the fee that they charge for their use has always been like well more than paid for by the value added by people adding pledges later, or even coming late to the campaign and doing a pre-order. They have like a pre-order system.
Right. So does Backerkit have a actual warehouse where you send the products to and then they do the fulfillment, or are they a middle manager that then lets you know that you have to fulfill things?
Both. They do have a warehouse and they do have fulfillment services. I haven't used those before. I did my own fulfillment for a number of years, and then 2 campaigns ago was the first time that I started working with fulfillment and third-party logistics companies to do region-based fulfillment for like the UK, EU, for Australia, for the US, and then I still tape 1 million boxes up in Canada and ship those out for the local stuff.
And for the journalists, this is because Peter has become very reliable, known to be reliable as a person who fulfills his Kickstarters, means that more people support them. So he's grown large enough that he needs a lot of help to meet all the promises.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, and I'll say that the like third-party fulfillment services were less expensive and less of like a leap than I thought they would be. The harder part was like letting go of like my death grip feeling that like if I don't do every part of this, something will go wrong, and like learning to trust and delegate has been like an emotional process for me that was like ultimately very good, and I think I am a better person because of it. Like I think I used to have that like if I don't keep my eyes on all things at all times, something will go wrong and it'll be my fault, and like learning to just be like no, these are professionals, they got it, or if there's a mistake it will be fixable.
Yeah, I'll have this one right here.
Or chicken.
Excuse me, but that is the address of the wine distributor.
Yeah, how about this one?
That is the surcharge, sir. May I suggest something a little higher up on the page? Chateau Lafitte.
That's
excellent.
nice.
Hope everybody's thirsty.
Even if like your campaign isn't huge, but you're like fulfilling in the States is really expensive from Canada. Honestly, like there's a lot of smaller fulfillment houses that will do smaller fulfillments. I increasingly I'm encouraging people to like go check it out, because those people are very good at that job, and we can figure it out as creators, but sometimes our time is not best spent there. And I certainly feel better not having to warehouse quite as much stuff in my small apartment when I move every 12 months. It's been freeing. But yeah, so they are a fulfillment house, but their primary thing before was they are a pledge manager. They let you sort of manage your post campaign. You can collect information a little bit better. You can also, people can edit their survey responses, and it lets those responses stay open. You can deliver digital goods directly through their platform. So it was always very good for this like toolkit of things that always paid for itself for me. And then I was having a conversation with one of the Backerkit relationship managers about like, he just asked me about doing some writing for a project of his, and I was talking about like Kickstarter frustration that I was having with the crypto announcement, and he's like, would you be interested if there was like an alternative, like if like, and I'm not saying this is the case, but like if Backerkit was about to launch a platform where you can do crowdfunding, would you be interested? And I was and
we had a card for that. Wants to unmask it. No, wait. Wants to enact a secret plan. Revolving around. We had that card.
Yeah. So I got to be a little bit a part of like the launch crew. There was a few creators that they'd reached out to who had used Backerkit for pledge managers and who'd had a history of like delivering projects on time or on budget. And they asked if I would want to be in the launch crew. And we talked a little bit about like what they were trying to do as a platform. And those are the things that I really do connect with and believe in, and that I do feel are going to be very good for the crowdfunding space. I'm not sure if it's an industry or not, because it's more like a bunch of industries that use it, but like as a creative space or a publishing space, I think it'll be very good.
But do you feel comfortable like listing some of those things, those values?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the biggest thing that I'd say overall, it's not specifically a feature, it's more of like a philosophy, is that like they really are creator focused. So I can send my guy there an email and be like, hey, can we add a feature where it's not just Twitch for live streaming, but we can live stream to YouTube? And he'll email that to a developer, and like within a week I'll have an answer about like, hey, yeah, we're going to work on adding YouTube functionality. You can now live stream from YouTube directly on the page. So it's the availability for like actually listening to creator feedback, and not just like, you know, the 12 biggest companies that have some sway, but like actually listening to creators of a bunch of different sizes. That has been, I think, for me throughout the process of like deciding to move away from a thing that has been most of my income to a new platform that is less tested, and that, you know, will be a change for like having to revisit some of my workflows, and that could be, you know, a risk. And like it's not yet known as a destination for crowdfunding. I think people are hearing about it more and more, but it doesn't have that same like, people go to Kickstarter to see what's new. People are only beginning to learn that Backerkit has a page where you can go see like what is new and that there are projects. So like there's a risk of discoverability that I was nervous about when we were discussing the plan.
Sorry to interrupt. Backerkit must have a list of people who have used Backerkit in the past that they will reach out to directly, which is probably a lot better than most social media platforms these days.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that they, I think, do curate and they care about who they partner with, and they care about like the specifics of like why those partnerships are good and valuable, and like calling those out, I think has been to their benefit. And the thing that to me that has been like that has kept me really invested in Backerkit and like made me think like this is a scary change, and I hate all kinds of change, and I, as a small business person who like has to make things work every year, it is very scary to change a core component of your business to something, and just see what happens. But the thing that I think has constantly been a point of confidence for me in Backerkit is that they have been so responsive and attentive to like, what as a creator would you want to make this work? Like, what's going to make you feel like this is a successful campaign? And so, yeah, some of the specific tools that they've been working on, much more focus on community engagement over just like who has the most money or who has the most backers. So much bigger focus on like being in conversation with your backers, having polls, having conversations, doing live streams where there's something that's a lot more interactive and active. They don't call them stretch goals, they call them achievements, community achievements. So, and you don't have to structure that as money. That can be the number of like downloads of a demo that you put together. That can be the number of shares that something got. That can be something not at all fiscal, but just like if like people, you know, I want 100 people to pitch me their own idea for a card or something, or like write your own cards. Like they can be creative challenges. You can do those achievements, and they have like a specific structure for that isn't what Kickstarter did for years and years and years of like not recognizing this as an important part of campaigns, which is like people just come up with a big graphic and put it in the page, and some poor graphic designer would re-export it every $10,000 and then re-upload it. And that's how we did it for a decade, because here was this thing that the community wanted, and it was a solution that we made ourselves, and a tool that we built ourselves that just like, there was an opportunity there for the company to pay attention to it and learn to support it in a focused way that's like really good for the community. That never happened. And then Backerkit, like one of the first things they did was like, hey, people want to be able to do achievements more creatively and fluidly. How do we make that happen? So it's like those little things that I have found really exciting about building the new campaign in that platform. It feels like something different. It feels like it's going to be very good for the crowdfunding space. And I'm excited to see how it goes. And I'm willing to like do something that feels like a big scary change in order to like help fulfill that vision that I want for what crowdfunding could look like.
Yeah, that's
ask me in a month, maybe the experience of launching will be different, but I am hopeful, I am excited. And Backerkit has been nothing but like good, generous collaborators through the entire process.
And so this next question I'm going to put to Justin and to you, Peter, and I'll also, you know, ruminate on myself. And I'm framing it this way because up until now, we've sort of framed you as the expert on Backerkit. And so I don't want you to be like, to think that like we're putting you on the spot to answer this question. But do you think that the power creep that happened at Kickstarter, where essentially dollars started speaking louder than creators, is an inevitable function of crowdfunding platform?
Of any platform,
yeah,
really.
like, is that just, are you just early in on Backerkit before a couple of millionaires and billionaires come in and change it?
I don't think so. I don't think this is just a case of getting in early. There seems to be every interaction that I've had with the Backerkit team, and this is from like people with executive titles to like people without those. They do seem to be very, very, very like vision and philosophy and like, why are we doing this and why does it matter driven? You know, they are a business and like they care about business things, but I get the sense that they are doing this because they care about it and they care about the way that it's done, and not because this is like financially the thing that will make the most money. You know, when companies sell or like an investor comes in and they suddenly get a lot of power, anything can change at any company. And I'm not saying that like will never happen to this company that I like, but the like the bones of like the work and design culture that I have seen there anyway, looks like they are doing this because they care about it and they want to build something that's interesting and better and collaborative. Yeah, so I don't think it's just a getting in early thing. Yeah. I think they're putting in a ton of sweat and vision and excitement to build something that is going to be cool and different.
Yeah, my fear is, of course, that power creep is inevitable. But my hope is that, like we talked about, whether crowdfunding is a space, you know, or an industry,
yeah.
Whatever that landscape looks like, I believe it's big enough now that it can have some niche positive actors inside of it, and you know, hopefully Backerkit has become one of those places.
Yeah, and anything that you scale, you start to have to make some compromises in like, how do I keep making it as good and delivering it to more people? And I think that like, not, and like also to be fair, like I had a more bespoke handheld experience than a lot of people will have on this platform because I was part of like getting to talk about what features will be really helpful or focused on. So I don't want to like say that my experience will be representative of everyone's experience, but
right, because just as your engine card said, you were you met people who wanted to enact a secret plan revolving around.
Yeah.
Yes.
Around a platform.
And you want to be saved by, yeah, we covered this, right? Yeah. A piece of furniture. Oh no, it doesn't.
It's yeah. Actually, I'm now launching a new line of gaming tables. That's my new project. So a piece of furniture is going to be.
That's right. And only one of them is real.
Yeah. And all the rest are MDF particle board, and only one of them.
The Goldfinch edition is only 1 per 1,000.
Yeah.
That's great. Peter, it has been such a delight to talk to you about all of these things. I wish you so much luck in the lower deck. And I'm so pleased that the story engine and the deck of worlds exists. Is there a final thought that you'd like to share with people who just feel they need to be creative, want to be creative, don't know what to do next?
Yeah, I would say focus on the want. Like look at your own engine here. What is it that you really want from the time that you spend being creative? Be honest with yourself about it, and then structure the rest of what you're going to do in terms of like how you are creative to focus on that. So like, and I think that you're going to get the best bang for your buck out of learning to love the time that you spend being creative and learning to love that process as like a first thing. So yeah, my advice is like, figure out why you love writing. If it's like that moment where a line of dialogue rings true, or it's the moment where like you nail a character portrait and now you know who this person is, then like learn to recognize those moments when they happen, like when they are happening, be in your body and be like, hey, I am having fun. This is really good. This is what I love doing. Celebrate those wins. And that's going to give you the long-term momentum to get maybe some of the other things that you're less honest with yourself about wanting to get out of writing, like a publishable story or a book deal or the acclaim of your peers. Those things often don't happen for a very long time. So if you learn to love the process first and make that your motivation, then those other things may come with time. But if you start with wanting the other thing, it can be very hard to get there. So
Guy Ritchie's phone number will come later.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That's like step 2 in the 5-part plan. But part 1, step 1 is learn to love the creative process.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Peter. As I always say, I want people to join the fight and make comics. The reason I say that, I don't know if I've ever tacitly explained, I believe that my best creative expressions are when I use words and pictures together. And I define words and pictures together as comics, right? Even though I do illustrated novels, even though I do role-playing games, the medium that I'm using is comics. And so this is Gregory Kmiecik encouraging all of you to join the fight and make comics.